Hey guys, it's Carolee. I just want to share an extra little mini episode with you every single week because I want you to know that it's possible to do this thing called living your best life and doing the thing that lights you up while being a busy mom. And I want to give you a little bit of a background, behind the scenes look at what's going on in my actual life and how I am doing this, how I'm doing the things that light me up and being a mom at the same time. So I'm going to tell you about what's going on in my life and the lessons that I'm learning. Take a listen. This is my friendly reminder to you and to me and to everybody that we get to be human. We get to be imperfect, beautifully flawed human beings. So I guess the question is, what stemmed this thought train that I'm going on? And frankly, I actually talk about this probably every single day to different people in different capacities. But the real thing that sparked this as an idea for a podcast episode was a guided meditation that took me back actually to my teenage years and was intended to help heal like teenage trauma and pain from teenage years and help me love my teenage self. And I've done lots of meditations where we went back to childhood and went to love our childhood self and visualized our young selves and even like got a picture of my kindergarten self and all her smirkiness and her, she's great. But when I try to visualize my teenage self, I definitely struggled to feel love there and to feel compassion and all the things that we were kind of supposed to be feeling there. And then what was really interesting was that what actually came up for me was not my teenage self coming through, but a much older version of I'm only 34, so not that much older, but like a 20s version of myself, like a mid-20s version of myself. And this stemmed from the fact that I had weight loss surgery in 2020, and I'm about 100 pounds down from where I was 4 years ago. And as a result, I look back on pictures of me in my 20s, because now I'm 34, so I had that surgery when I was 30. And I look back on my 20s, which was when I had my kids and I gained that weight, and I don't love that version of myself. I've had a really hard time coming to terms and finding compassion for who I was then. And I suppose it's worth noting that that entire decade of my life was really lived in survival mode and trauma as my husband went through his disability. And like the very worst of his disability. And I had 3 kids, and we had 2 kids almost die, and we lived in so much poverty, and I tried to create multiple businesses and create an income for my family while also being a caretaker for my 3 kids who were all struggling with their different things, and my husband who, for a long time he was collapsing multiple times a week and all sorts of things, right? Like it was a really difficult time of my life, very much in survival mode, very much just trying to get through day to day. But I look at pictures of myself and feel shame, right? And I'm sure a lot of us, if we have big weight loss stories like I do, that's a fairly common thing. But as I've been pondering on this, I realized what was missing. I realized why I was struggling to see myself the same way that I see so many other people, because I look at the beautiful, incredible people around me and feel so much love for them, no matter what they weigh, no matter what they look like, no matter what's going on in their lives. Why can't I look at past versions of myself and feel the same way? It's because I was not allowing for me in the past to have been human. I was expecting perfection from 20s Carolee. I was expecting her to know everything that I know now. I was expecting her to not be in survival mode. I was expecting her to be better than she was, and not allowing her to be the flawed, beautiful survivor that she was. And instead of seeing how hard she worked and having compassion for everything that she went through and everything that she did to help her family survive and help people around her and help just everybody keep going, instead of seeing her humanity, all I could see was the perfection I wished was there. And that's not fair to 20s me. It's also not fair to teenage me. It's not fair to any version of me. It's not fair to current me. It's not fair to put my current self in that same place of expecting perfection when I'm still human, as we all are. If you're expecting these high standards for yourself, please do not forget your own humanity and the incredible beauty that lies within that. We look at flaws and imperfections and we think that they're so bad and we want to get rid of them. But when you look out in nature, if everything was symmetrical and perfect, it actually would be distasteful. It would actually be not appealing to us. It's actually the flaws that we find in nature. It's actually the idiosyncrasies. It's the differences that we see throughout the world, especially like in flowers and in rocks and in grass. It's where we see differences in color and textures and shapes. That's where we find beauty, is in the variety. Can we allow that in ourselves? Can we start to see the beauty in our own variety and texture? Can we start to see that there's different shapes within our own selves? There's different textures. And maybe if you look at that texture by itself, it's not so appealing. But if you can look at it in the grand scheme of humanity, because we are unique, we make up this grand tapestry that is the world. And it's so beautiful. It's so rich and it's so inviting and it's so incredible and miraculous. Because of our individuality, that's what makes everything so spectacular. And yet we are constantly striving to conform and to be the same and to fit in. If only I could be just like everybody else, then maybe I wouldn't feel so alone. Maybe I'd feel like I belong. But the person you really need to start belonging to is yourself. You have to find that safe place in your own body and start to see the beauty in your own humanity, in your own flaws, in your own imperfections, in your own colors. Because we are all such varied creatures, and we don't fit into boxes, even though you might not know this, but it's actually totally science. Our brains are scientifically hardwired from the time we are born to categorize things, to put things into boxes. Like when we start learning the difference between horses and dogs, it's like they both have 4 legs and they're both animals, and how do I figure out which one's a horse and which one's a dog? Like, we are made to categorize things, and so we want to put everyone around us, including ourselves, into boxes, and we start asking ourselves this question of, who am I? Which box do I fit in? How do I find my place? And the truth is that none of us actually fit into those boxes. None of us should ever be trying to squeeze ourselves into one tiny box, because we are multifaceted. We have loads of interests and loads of passions. I mean, I do. And that's something that I have been working on so much. Like, I feel like perfectionism is so very much the idea that if I was perfect, I'd fit into that box that somebody else decided existed. And since I don't fit into that box, then I must not be perfect. But you have to start seeing that because you don't fit into a box, you're even more beautiful. Do you see that yet? Because you are human and varied, you're extra beautiful. It truly is your differences. It is your inability to fit into one box that makes your humanity so amazing. So let yourself be a human. And those things that you're calling flaws, maybe they're not really flaws after all. Maybe you could try looking at them from a different lens, from a different perspective. Because when you can take that different angle, that different take on things, it'll change everything. So my challenge for you is to allow yourself to just be a little bit more human.